Alright, so it's been nearly 2 years since I made the video of fixing the Ursa Mini Pro to 4.6K. I think I uploaded it in September, even though I shot the video a few months earlier, and I just uploaded it for fun. I had no idea that so many people would actually watch it, so thanks for watching it, and all the comments I got was very unexpected. And quite a few people contacted me and asking if I could fix their cameras as well, since they had the same problem. And quick answer, if you're in the EU, sure, I could try. But it turned out sending such a camera from outside the EU, like from the US, it's a pain. Customs is expensive, shipping is expensive. And also I can't do many of those cameras since it takes me a long time to actually take them apart and test them and everything. But still, if you have a camera like that and you're in the EU, just, send me a message, sure, why not? But yeah, anyway, back to a quick update. The camera that I fixed is this one right here, and I actually decided to keep it. I thought I'm just gonna sell it for a good profit, but I found out that making videos in RAW format and color grading and everything is just the most fun thing ever. So definitely one of the most fun electronic toys I've had. Yeah, I kept it, and I bought stuff used from eBay because I'm doing all of this as a hobby on a budget. So everything is used. The tripod is used. The ball head thing is used. The lenses are all secondhand. So I'm just slowly building together a nice collection of stuff. But it works perfectly to this day, and I love it. And yeah, I've been looking on for lenses quite a bit. And I come from the photography world, and yes, I'm one of those people who loves the old manual lenses, the Voigtlanders, the old Zeiss stuff, chasing the elusive low element count lenses with the micro contrast and 3D pop that nobody can explain exactly what it is. But I just like interesting lenses with a nice character, and I have a nice collection for photography of Voigtlanders and Zeiss and stuff like that. And when I started with the whole video stuff, I needed a nice sign lens because I really like the geared focus stuff. And I went for those Mikey S35 lenses because they're cheap. And I thought I'll upgrade later. So I got a few of those, then I saved some money, got myself a nice CP2 from Zeiss, the compact prime. This thing is an absolute monster. Also used, obviously. I could never afford a new one of those. They're expensive. Everything cinema stuff is expensive. However, I actually prefer the cheap Mikey lenses for some reason. They have a really interesting character, and even though they being quite cheap, well, cost-wise, they have a really nice characteristic to them, which I actually prefer to the old school Zeiss stuff. Yes, those have maybe a little more, I don't know what you might call it, micro contrast, but those things are really, really close behind, even though they cost like a quarter, I don't know. So I ended up getting the entire set of the S35 lenses because they just really, really fit the camera and just the image that I enjoy. So got a few of those, and yes, they are for Super 35 sensors, and the market is being flooded by bigger sensors, more higher specs stuff, whatever. But I actually just really, really like the way the Fairchild sensor in the 4.6Ks look. So I'm going to stay with this format. I like the Mikey lenses. I mean, I could make a nice comparison video between those two lenses if there's interest, since I have those two. They're both 35 millimeters. So if there's interest for that, I could do that. But yeah. Anyway, I have quite a few cameras here. This is the last one I bought from the internet. It's also the G1. This one was dropped, so the entire housing is cracked. And it had the same problem with display not turning on, and I already fixed this one. It had the exact same problem as all the Ursas that I had. I think I must have fixed 8 by now. This is number 7. I can't even remember. Same problem as every single Ursa. The sensor connections break. I resolder them. Camera works perfectly. However, on this one, the person who had it before me, who sold it to me for $300, he sent it to Blackmagic. They took the side panel off and unplugged the sensor and said, it's irreparable. Should we dispose it for you? And the guy said, no, send it back. So they sent the entire camera back without putting it back together. So it was just a box with the camera body in, with the side panel separate, with all the screws just thrown in. And unfortunately, they actually ripped off the connector of the ribbon cable that connects the SDI and power port back to the main PCB, which sucks. So this one works, but those connections do nothing. Luckily, I could figure out what connector that is, because the connector on the main PCB is still there. The one on the flex cable broke off, and it's just a Molex connector. Pretty much any board-to-board connector nowadays is either Molex or JTech is another one. And I've seen them before. I've used them in some of my circuit board designs. So just went on the website, looked at the pictures, and I figured out which one it is. So yeah, I'm gonna order a few of those and repair this camera, and I'll probably keep this one as a spare. I don't know yet. It has the cracked side. I don't really care. Those cameras are meant to be used. So then I actually have 2, which is nice. Anyway, enough talking. The reason I want to make this video is that on the first video I said that they actually fixed this issue that they had with the G1 of the sensor breaking off with the G2. And well, here I have a G2. This was sent to me by someone from the US who actually went to the trouble of sending me this thing, even though it's horribly expensive. But you know, I understand those cameras are expensive, and if Blackmagic doesn't want to fix them, might as well try. So this is a G2. It shows the exact same symptoms of all the G1s with the issue of the sensor breaking off. So it's the camera unresponsive, no screen, but you can kind of see the backlight turning on. Otherwise, nothing happens. So yeah, I thought I will take this one apart as well. Actually see if they did any mechanical changes on the inside to prevent the sensor breaking off, and yeah, see if I can fix this one as well. And it would be a shame if the G2s have the same issue as the G1s, because yeah, it's such a nice camera. It's a really expensive camera. Not for me, obviously, because I got mine broken. But I just can't imagine what a pain it is if you spend 7,000 euros for such a camera and 2 years later it breaks and it cannot be fixed. It must be devastating. I mean, those are such nice cameras, and like I said, I really, really love the image those sensors produce. So yeah, let's see if we can fix a G2 as well. I'll spare you the entire taking the camera apart, because you can see that on the first video. The housing is pretty much the same on those, so getting to the sensor is probably exactly the same, and I've done this so many times now I can do that in the dark. But yeah, let's see once I got the sensor out if we can see any differences. Right, cameras apart, and that actually went quicker than I thought. This is the sensor assembly. It's pretty much just a massive heatsink, and right in there is the little Peltier element with the blue, it's like a heat pad, squishy heat pad, which tends to get really hard after a while. I hope this one is in good condition. And sandwiched in is the sensor and this absolutely massive PL mount. I've never had a PL mount before, so this is actually really cool. I don't know what happened, maybe something during shipping, but this lens cap just does not want to stay on. But everything else is fine, but yeah. Probably I'm just being stupid. I don't know. But yeah, I really like this huge mechanical thing. Kind of makes me want to get the PL mount for my camera as well and upgrade all my Mikey lenses with the PL mount, which is apparently, I think, available. You can buy the little kits. But yeah. I'm being stupid, but yeah. Now it's just another 8 more screws, and then we can actually have a look at the sensor element as well. Up to now, everything looks exactly the same, except that on the side we have 4.6K G2 written here, so they definitely did do some changes on the circuit board, which is cool. Yeah, let's have a look. Got the screws out. Let's see what we actually find. It's always an exciting thing. Up to now, everything looks exactly the same as the G1. So let me just unplug this pelty element. I have to press in like 2 little tabs. But yeah, let's see if the foam is still nice and foamy. I think we can keep that. It gets brittle after a while, so I actually assume that I can actually see that, yeah, Blackmagic uses some special foam that's all squishy when they assemble it, and it squishes down and then hardens, maybe, because it's super brittle now, but as long as it makes a good contact between the heatsink and the pelty element, so yeah, nice. And now for the sensor. Oh. Let's see what we got. Ooh, there's actually some dirt in there. That's not good. Huh, there's a fuzzy inside. But yeah, you got the sensor. It looks exactly the same as the G1. I pulled off a shim as well. I'll deal with this later. The backside definitely has a .2 written, 002 written on it, so I'm not sure if it's the same sensor or different one. Absolutely looks exactly the same, but yeah. No mechanical differences though, which is actually surprising. Let's have a look under the microscope if the contacts have the same problem on this camera as all the other ones. And also I need to actually cover the sensor pretty quickly before dirt gets onto it. So let me just get all of that out of the way. It's now on my other table, which is even more messy than the other ones. So on first look, the PCB looks exactly the same as the G1, except it's saying G2. But maybe they changed a few things on the back. Who knows? I don't have a G1 as comparison. So, but anyway, the sensor has 002 written on the back. So, like they claimed, it's a new version of the sensor. Well, makes sense. It does look exactly the same as the Fairchild sensors, and apparently it has the same image, same everything, exactly the same, except that you have much higher frame rates. So maybe they redesigned just the data lines to be able to carry a much higher data rate. Maybe, I don't know. Otherwise, it looks the same. Let me just take the gasket off. Don't worry, this is easier to reapply because it stays sticky. It just sounds horrible, I know. I'm trying to keep the sticky stuff on the board. There we go. Perfect. Okay, because I'm gonna reapply this. No big deal. But yeah, let me mount the GoPro on the microscope and let's see if we can actually find cracks, which would be really good, which means it would be fixable. Alright, half a roll of fabric tape later, I have my GoPro stuck to my microscope. Unfortunately, I can only really look through the GoPro display or the left eye of my microscope, so I can't really see much. But yeah, let's have a look at the contacts of the sensor first and see if we can find any cracks. Let me just zoom this thing in. This is the top row of the sensor. If there's anything weird going on, but you can definitely see that there's very little solder on all those pads. But yeah, so far, although, nope, there we go. There's all the little cracks. There's a nice one. Not sure how well you can actually see that on the video, but they're there. There you go. There's a big one. That last one is just huge crack. Yeah, so that kind of confirms that G2 has the exact same problem, unfortunately. Is any more on this side? Yep. There you go. Seems like this entire corner. Alright, if we have a look on the second side, maybe if I turn it a little bit. There you go. Now you can see them also on this side. So seems like this entire corner is cracked. Yeah, there's a nice one. There you go. Otherwise, the rest looks fine. So it's pretty much just this one corner. Let me look at the bottom side. And left side as well. Yep, this side is also fine. So it just seems like the top right corner is starting to lift off and cracking all the solder joints. There we go. Anyway, so I am going to resolder everything all around just to make sure that this sensor never will break off ever again. And yeah, hope to see if this camera is going to be fixed or not. See if we get lucky. Anyway, I'm wondering if I could actually film soldering at least one pin. You can already see the first 4 are soldered, and let me just try to do at least one by just looking at the GoPro display. Yeah, I'm using 0.4mm wire, I think, or 0.3, and a 0.2mm tip, which is super small, and oh, this is horrible. I can't see anything. Let's see, there's the wire. If I look through the microscope, I usually have 2 eyes, meaning I have depth perception, but with this, nothing. Okay, this is actually really difficult. I can do this. There you go, I just melt the pad a little bit. Different angle, there we go. And then pull the blob all the way up onto the pin, and I touch the other pin a little bit. There you go. So pretty much make a nice little thick triangle of solder. Yeah, that looks nice. So yeah, I'm also using the good leaded solder, which is much stronger than the environmentally friendly unleaded stuff. So this sensor definitely will never come off again. But yeah, I have to do this 120 more times, and then I'm done. Alright, so sensors back on. Soldered every single pin and added a good amount of solder, so at least this sensor is not going to go anywhere anytime soon. Yeah, thermal pad is still fine, like I already said, so I'm just going to add a good amount of thermal paste here and put everything together and hope for the best. But yeah, it's just a shame that the G2 has the same issue as the G1, and I really thought that they fixed it. But yeah, just sad that such an expensive camera and such an amazing camera actually would die after 2 or 3 years and not be replaceable. And for some people that is quite devastating because those things are expensive. So yeah, but even though I talk negatively about Blackmagic, I really have to give them credit for their design. This stuff is well designed. It really is. Just the circuit boards are really nicely made. They're good quality. I mean, this main circuit board is just beautiful. It is super thick. It's flex rigid boards. I mean, this is just nice. I like this. Even the mechanical design, like the cage, the magnesium cage is really nicely made. It's easy to take apart. There's no glue, no weird stuff. All the screws are nicely thread locked in. So it is a really nicely made camera, but it's just this one issue, and I can't even be mad at them because those issues are only something that appear after years of actual use, where you can actually find those things. So yeah, I can't even be mad at them. It still sucks for people who spend money on this camera and then it just becomes useless. So that it's not good. So in an ideal world, if Blackmagic, if you're listening or if you're watching this video for whatever reason, I mean, an ideal world redesign would be nice, where the sensor would actually press against like a gasket in here, and the circuit board would just be free floating, and the heatsink would be bolted direct to this, so that the sensor itself is being sandwiched between heatsink or the Peltier element and the surface on here. An ideal world, but mechanical redesign is horribly expensive, and I know that isn't really an option. So I know. Other thing I thought is increasing the thickness of the solder paste stencil for this side of the board, just to get some more solder on the pins. It might work, but I guess the problem here is that there's also components up here, and if you increase the thickness, then there's too much solder here and could cause short circuits on this chip. So I guess that's not really an option either. But one thing that came to my mind is just use underfill on the sensor chip. That would be the easiest thing. So just in case Blackmagic is watching this video for whatever reason, or if someone cares, just a quick explanation what this underfill actually is. It's a very specialized glue that's used in PCB manufacturing or generally electronics, mostly industrial stuff. It's designed to bond components to the PCB to protect against mechanical forces like vibration, also corrosion or water ingress, similar to conformal coatings and stuff like that. But special about it is that it's a very, very high viscosity most of the time, and you just drop a tiny little drop along one side of the chip and the capillary forces actually suck it underneath the chip. And also it's designed to not shrink while curing, to put any more tension on the solder joints, which is pretty much what you want to avoid in the first place. But yeah, it's, like I said, mostly found in industrial applications where there's lots of vibrations, or pretty much everything automotive, because when cars vibrate and you don't want any of the solder joints to break. Also things like any big chip, like maybe M.2 drives sometimes have it. You have a very thin, flexible board with big chips with many connections soldered onto it, and if someone screws it down, the chips would just fly off. So you sometimes find it there, although it's not as common as it used to be. Yeah, that's usually like a squishy glue, just to protect against vibrations. But you also find it on pretty much any silicon wafer that's soldered to like their little carrier boards. So any, like the CPUs, if you look really closely, they use some sort of underfill that becomes super hard, nearly like a ceramic. But yeah, So the Blackmagic sensor is pretty much under constant tension forces, which is a bit different to what underfill usually gets used for. So yeah, the industrial chemistry is pretty insane. So I'm pretty sure there's something out there that would fit this application. I mean, they glue whole car chassis together, and that works perfectly, at least most of the time. But yeah, I mean, there's many companies that make this stuff. I'm pretty sure someone would actually know what the right glue could be for this. I mean, obviously 3M makes the stuff. Henkel is a big one as well. They make Loctite, so they know what they're doing. So they also make all sorts of underfill. What else? Master Bond. Panasonic makes the stuff as well. I think they even have one for sensors and stuff like that. But it really depends on the application. What do you want to bond with? What's the forces that are involved? And for the sensor, definitely something with a very high Young's modulus. So a very stiff glue would be perfect. So that most of the forces actually go through the glue instead of the solder joints. If underfill would work, that would be really great, because then there would be no redesign of the existing mechanical parts, and it pretty much would be just one more step in the production. Just have a little robot add a little drop of glue around the whole sensor, and problem solved. But yeah, that's just my thought. So after this way too long and probably very unnecessary explanation of underfill, I thought, why make our lives so hard? And there must be a different way to actually do this. And I drew out a little sketch or a cross-section of the sensor stack to explain a bit better, hopefully, what's actually happening. And yeah, it's not to scale, sorry about that. I did my best to show how everything bolts together. Pretty much right up here, this whole thing is the heat sink with the little heat pipes going down. The green thing is the circuit board, the PCB. Here we have the Fairchild sensor just sitting right on top of this little hole in the PCB. In between here, this black thing is the Peltier element, and the blue squishy thermal foam thing that's like sandwiched in between. And yeah, this gets bolted directly to this large piece here, which is the whole lens mount and also the ND filter sign here. So the lens would be pretty much sitting here. So let me just quickly add a lens, I guess. I don't know. And there we go. Nice lens. And yeah, the ND filters are also inside here. But yeah, pretty much what's happening is this whole stack, the heatsink, the PCB, and the whole lens mount gets bolted together like through those holes here. And I should actually probably drill the screws in as well. That might help. Oh, there we go. And I forgot the holes in the PCB, so sorry about that. But yeah, those three parts, they don't move. They just get bolted together, and that's that. So the entire force on the back of the sensor actually comes from this little squishy foam pad that they put behind the Peltier element. And the entire force that this pretty much pushes down right there onto the sensor, goes into the sensor and has to go out through the little solder connections, which would be right here at the edge. I have to go through here, and that force obviously goes back through the sensor and here. So the entire force of this being squished together from the heat pad has to be taken from those little the solder joints. And probably when they put everything together, this was squishy and a bit springy, but after some time this foam gets really hard. So maybe during the heat cycles of the camera, this starts to get really stiff and put even more force onto those little solder joints, and that makes them break. So maybe that's the problem. Yeah, I mean, there's many solder joints, so maybe they calculated that it would be fine, but after time, well, we saw what happens. And the underfill would be like the glue. It would one underneath here and bond the sensor down a bit more. So probably would help. But I figured there might be a much easier solution to this, since the distance between this whole lens mount assembly and the sensor is known or is fixed, or it has to be the same with every camera, since they put like shims in here. We actually saw the shims fall out when I took everything apart. So the distance between here and here should be known. So why not put like a little rubbery gasket in here, like that fits perfectly around the whole sensor. And since the distance is known, we can make it just a little bit thicker and have just the right amount of firmness of the rubber, that some of the forces actually get diverted through here. That would be nice. So just have a little bit pressure on the sensor to alleviate like the stress from the solder joints, and maybe that would work. I don't know. But yeah, that's just my ideas. I'm just some dude on the internet throwing out ideas because I'm a bit of a fanboy for those cameras. I don't know. But yeah, maybe that would be an idea or a solution to this problem. I mean, it would be a cheap one, so also no redesign of the already existing mechanics. So I don't know. I'm just throwing out ideas. And yeah, I mean, if Blackmagic doesn't fix that issue and the new cinema camera with the 65mm sensor has the same problem, and sensor breaks off with this, and I could get one for really cheap and fix it, that would be a shame, right? Yeah, that would be horrible. Alright, time to put everything back together and see if the camera actually works again. Too much thermal paste? What? Never. Can never have enough thermal paste. Though, there's a nice little trick you can do when applying thermal paste to stuff like this. Not really PC stuff, because they have a lot of clamping pressure for the CPU. For things like this, I just add way more than I actually need. And then I actually push down on the sensor and move it in like little circles that actually will start to work the thermal paste towards the edges. And the thing which is fun about this is I can actually feel the whole thing floating. And at some point I can feel it get quite a lot of resistance. And that means that the thermal paste is quite thick. So the whole thing is just squishing inside. I don't know. But if it gets really thin, the whole thing just starts to stick, and you can immediately feel that. So then you get a super thin layer of thermal paste, and the rest just comes out the edges. Now it's like really hard to push. So yeah, now I know the whole thing is just perfectly stuck. Won't come off. So yeah, that's how I apply thermal paste. Oh, I can actually really feel how it's like suction cupped itself to the surface. So yeah. Anyway. Alright, let's see if our work paid off this time. And also I figured out why I couldn't get the cap on the PL mounting. Turns out 2 of those screws were nearly screwed out all the way, blocking this thing from closing properly. So this poor camera must have been rattled to death during transport. And same thing with one of those pins of this thing. It just kind of came out, I think. It was just laying in there, so nothing's broken, luckily, but I'll have to fix that later. But yeah, maybe I'll put a tiny dab of Loctite on those screws inside there, like the ones on. Definitely not this one, because it's the red Loctite. You'll never get this stuff off. But I have the blue one as well, so maybe, I'll see. How does this work? I'm still in... there you go. Anyway, let us see if this camera starts back up. Okay, backlight is on. Look at that. Yep, and it works. Yep, seems the G2 has the exact same problem, and soldering the sensor, camera works. Look at that. Yeah, I need a lens. Alright, I have a lens. Don't judge me, okay? I have to get creative sometimes. It's just a lens for my old Olympus camera. Yeah, it works. And don't worry, this is the tape that doesn't leave any residue. The good stuff. So, don't worry. But yeah, camera works again. I'm very happy. I'm probably going to make a 1-hour recording just to make sure that the whole sensor stack still sits properly. Is this even in focus? I don't know. But yeah, this guy's going to go back to the US. Hopefully many more years of fun movie making with this one. But yeah, seems like the G2 has the same problem, but resoldering the sensor, camera works perfectly. So yeah, there we go. So in case you were curious, this is how a Ursa Mini Pro looks like when you tape a little 50mm Olympus lens to the front with tape. I mean, it works. It works. It's an old school lens. It looks nice, I think. Although focusing only works with moving the camera back and forth, so there's that. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching. Well, there you go.